Hi, everyone. Welcome to the session. We'll get started in just a moment. Feel free to get comfortable and we'll get started shortly. In the meantime, while people are joining us, I think we'll kick off a little welcome poll just so we can hear from you today and see who's joining us in the audience now. So feel free to share what's your connection to SAP Build. If you're a customer, a partner, or employee, we'd be happy to hear your connection. All right, great. So nice to see a good mixture of people here. So I think we can go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to the What's New in SAP Build session. And this is covering the first quarter of 2025. And it's our first What's New webinar of the year. So we're very excited to welcome all of you here today. Okay, so before we get started with the highlights of Q1, just a few reminders. So the session is being recorded and we will share the recording and the slides later. Also, this webinar is open to both internal and external audiences. So a warm welcome to our SAP customers, partners, colleagues, and everyone else in the SAP community as well. For the Q&A, please feel free to share any and all questions that you might have directly with the host and the moderators in the chat tool. And we're going to try to answer them as the session goes on, but we'll also try and save some time at the end to answer them live as well. Okay, so jumping into our agenda for today. So first, I'll share some updates around SAP Build Availability, and then we'll look at enhancing SAP Business Suite with SAP Build. Then we'll talk about boosting developer productivity. And then finally, our most exciting topic for the day, Joule for developers. So all of the updates around Joule and AI for SAP Build. And then last but not least, we'll also save some time to answer your questions. Okay, so before we get started, I'd also like to hear from you again in the audience. So we'll launch another quick poll just to hear from you again. So we'd like to know which of these topics are you most excited about learning today? So whether it's enhancing the business suite and your lines of business applications, boosting developer productivity, or all of the above, we'd be happy to know which of these is most interesting for you. All right, thanks for sharing your input. So great, good to see that there's a bit of interest for the different topics today, and hopefully, regardless of why you're joining, you take away some value from each section, because I think they're all equally exciting at least. So moving on, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today. So my name is Ishmael Xavier. I'll be the host for today and also a moderator. And I'm from the product management team of SAP Build. And then with me is Robin Kivid. He's also from the product management team of SAP Build. And then we also have David Witzer, who is a technical consultant for SAP. And Robin and David are going to both share with us some exciting technical demos later on. So very excited to see that. All right, so before we jump into the newest features, we'd like to share some news on availability around SAP Build. So a few updates to be aware of, and the first is related to SAP Task Center and SAP Build Work Zone. So and just in case you're not aware, SAP Task Center allows organizations to manage approval workflows by consolidating tasks from various SAP systems into a single intuitive inbox. So starting in January of this year, SAP Task Center is now included in all editions of SAP Build Work Zone. And this also includes partner licenses. And it applies to Standard Edition, Advanced Edition, and also SAP SuccessFactors Work Zone. So now with this inclusion, customers and partners are able to showcase how to streamline their approvals, workflow efficiency, and collaboration across SAP solutions. And our other update is for SAP Build Apps. So you can now deploy SAP Build Apps in EU11 and Sydney data centers and bring your applications to more users. So the increased coverage is improving app responsiveness and supporting region-specific compliance needs as well. So hopefully these updates around availability make your extensibility experience a little bit easier, especially when building and scaling for enterprise use cases. And now with that, we can start to dive into the latest features and innovations across SAP Build. And our first topic is all about how you can enhance the SAP Business Suite and your lines of business applications with SAP Build. So first, we want to share how you can customize your cloud ERP with confidence by creating UI extensions. So when it comes to your cloud ERP, one of the main challenges here is that the core applications often don't meet all of your unique business needs. So there comes this need to extend those capabilities further. And also modernizing and upgrading the ERP through custom development requires a large effort, and this also comes with a lot of risk. So to address this, last year we released the SAP Build Extensibility Wizard, and this allows you to create extensions directly within the SAP S/4HANA public cloud application. And with the wizard, it's already possible to create custom processes with SAP Build Process Automation. But now we are making it possible to develop custom applications as well. So I'll just play a short little animation here so you can see how this looks. So from your S/4HANA app, you can open the wizard directly by going to Create Extension, and this launches the wizard. And you can see the different options here. So now you'll see that you can create a user interface extension. And from here, you can either adapt the current UI5 app or create a new SAP Fiori application. And it'll take you through some simple guided questions to set it up. So this is really simplifying the extension creation, especially for key users, and meanwhile keeping the core clean. And also by getting to access the latest SAP Build innovations like Joule for developers, this can also really speed up the ERP modernization. So moving over to the HR side of things. So one of the challenges in HR processes is that for employees, there's often a lot of complex HR processes. So for example, when they have to request things like parental leave, relocation, enrolling in benefits, and a lot of times these require multiple steps spread out across separate applications. So as most of you know, last year we released guided experiences, and these are powered by SAP Build Work Zone and Process Automation. And the guided experiences can help navigate through complex business processes, but not just for HR scenarios. These also work for other lines of businesses as well. But we're excited to introduce some enhancements now in Q1 to the guided experiences. So for example, now we're introducing integrated pre-built content packages that are available from SAP SuccessFactors. So you can get a head start with templates for employee onboarding and cross-boarding scenarios, and also other updates to guided experiences to make them even more flexible. So for example, now it's easy to restart a guided experience, and you can also collapse and expand the different sections. And now multi-instance support is also there, so you can start multiple guided experiences from a given template. So lots of new upgrades to guided experiences, making it even more flexible and manageable to navigate these multi-step processes. One more on the HR side. So this is all about reducing IT dependencies for employees with the new support plugins in SAP Build Work Zone. So a typical use case here is an enterprise using SAP Build Work Zone to create a centralized HR portal. So here, employees can do things like submit leave requests, access their payroll information, but it's often difficult for them to find the right information in these portals. So frequently they have to ask IT for help, and in the meantime, lose productivity while they're waiting for a response from IT. So now with these built-in support plugins, these are now available in all editions of SAP Build Work Zone. And with these, users can get instant access to help and context-aware recommendations. So the companies can enable the plugins in their HR Work Zone site settings, And employees can click on the support agent to browse knowledge base articles on HR processes and get step-by-step guidance around these processes. So lots of opportunities here for enhancing the SAP Business Suite, especially for HCM scenarios like what we just showed you. So now I'm going to actually hand it over to Robin, and he's going to show you a different kind of extension example along with a demo. So Robin, please feel free to take it away when you're ready.
Thank you, Ashmi. Let me start sharing my screen, and please just give me a hint if everything's visible. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Then, yeah, welcome from my side as well. What I would like to discuss with you today are intermediate message events and which problems they can help you solve in your extension scenarios. For this, I would ask you to take a look on the top right corner of the slide to explain the problem a little bit better. So usually you would use Build and also Build Process Automation to extend, as Ashmi also explained, your available business solutions like S/4HANA, for example, for purchase orders or also for purchase order revisions when you want to return an item. But of course, what I've marked here at the top as business solution can also be a custom application that you have built that you can extend using Build Process Automation. So going from left to right on this little chart, you would see how a business process unfolds over time. And of course, the business process continues to happen within the business solution, but it also happens, of course, in your extension process that you have modeled using SAP Build Process Automation. So a typical scenario, for example, can include or would include that a business document is being created in S/4HANA, like a purchase order. And in order to extend the standard process, you would then trigger an extension using either an API trigger or a business event that's being sent to start your extension process. Then, of course, you can have multiple steps in the process itself here in the extension. But then if you would like to provide an update back to S/4HANA, you can do so using our action framework, which then, you would have a state of a business document being updated or, having received an update. And now it comes basically at the point in time or the problem that we would like to understand and discuss today. So the question is, how do you really keep those processes run in business solutions and extensions in sync in case there are any intermediate updates from the process that you run in your business solution? And those updates should also be reaching your extension process. So up until the release of intermediate message events, there were a few workarounds that customers were able to deploy in their extension process. For example, working with two different kind of extension processes, or also using a timer event and an action to poll the business document on the S4 side in order to understand what the status of the business document is and if there has been any update to the business context of the same. But this is, of course, computationally intensive. It's not efficient. And in case you have a human also, let's say, monitoring the whole thing and ensuring everything is consistent, that's also quite error prone. And that's exactly where intermediate message events come into play. They allow you to provide or make an API call from your business solution back to the running process to receive updates from our perspective today, from the external application, which is the business solution. And then, of course, you can update the business solution again using an action, and then both the processes would be ending. However, to make this a little bit more hands-on, I would now like to jump into the demo that I have prepared for you. So I already logged out. Let's start with a completely blank project to make the case. So we would now be creating a process for purchase order line item revision in the evening session of the what's new. It's basically the scenario I was describing earlier. You might have already received some items through a purchase order, but now there was an item that you might want to return, and that's where you're in a revision case. As mentioned, since you're integrating with a business solution, we, for this example, want to use an API trigger, which we will be calling, let's say, revision start. And this API trigger will basically be used in order to create a workflow instance at runtime. And then just for simplification, let's say we will be handling additional steps in this extension process. And for the sake of the demo, I would simply create a dummy process and call it handling. So this will not be doing anything during the demo. However, you can imagine this to be additional processing steps within the extension. And then the new capability, which you would find in our smart menu under the controls and event section, next to other event types, you would now see the intermediate message event as a wait for an API call. So we are adding this intermediate message event, and we might want to call it revision update, for example. We create the event and it's being added to our process canvas. For now, I would quickly save, and in order to simplify further, we still need to define which data we are expecting from the external application, both for start and for the update scenario. To keep it simple, we will assume it might be just the same payload. And for this, we will be creating a data type artifact, purchase order revision. We create, and now we would be entering the attributes that we expect to be receiving from the external application, which in our example would be the purchase order ID. It would be the line item ID of the item we want to return, return reason, and a return type, to keep it simple for now. We can save now. And afterwards, we are navigating back into the process. And then now we'll be assigning this data type to our process inputs. I will be selecting it here from the dropdown. I will apply, and I will basically use the same kind of interaction pattern in order to define the interface or the data that we will be receiving through the intermediate message event. So let me come here as well. Select the very same data type and click apply. And with this, everything that we wanted to do for now actually has been completed already. So I will save again. And then once the changes are persisted, we can actually proceed with releasing our project. So I will release it for now. And once the version has been released, we can proceed by continuing to deploy this project version into this environment that I've already been preparing called Robin. So let's deploy. We see there will be a few triggers created. We accept that. And after deployment has completed, we will now navigate into our environment. So you see the environment is visible here. We can navigate into it. So for the sake of the demo, I would like to simulate also how an external application would call SAP Build Process Automation using Postman. But before we get there, I'll quickly now switch into a different kind of persona. So what you've seen now would be a developer persona, but also we need to consider some, let's say, administrative work. And for this, you also need to have access to the BTP cockpit, because in your instances and subscription for Build Process Automation, you would need to create a service key or a service binding, which contains information that you will see we will need in a second for authentication for the API call. So going back to the environment, I see there were a few projects deployed already, including our What's New session. And what I'm most interested now is the trigger information, because we will also need this in order to configure the update to the intermediate message event. So let's see, we have the revision update here. And if I go and use the context menu, I can get additional information on this trigger, like the example payload, but also the address that we need to call. I'll copy this for a second. And now we can proceed to the next step. One thing you will also need in addition is the generation of an API key where you configure the respective scopes. And once you've done all this, you basically have all the information necessary to integrate. So coming to processes and workflows here, that's where we will start a workflow instance simulating the API call. If it's loading, yes, very good. And here I also need to select the right process, which is the purchase order revision. And then I can already go and say, start a new instance. It provides me an example payload, but I want to adjust it to our very example using purchase order ID, line item, return reason, and return type. And with this, we can say, start new instance. And you see the instance has started. And if we now go and say, well, show us the instances, because there's actually one additional piece of information that we need, which is the exact workflow instance ID for this workflow that we have been triggering. So you see, we started the workflow, our handling sub-process has already processed, and now we are waiting at the intermediate message event, which means the whole process pauses and waits for the signal / the API call from the external system to arrive. So from the information here, I can copy the instance ID and now navigate into Postman. So what you would see is I already prepared the payload here, which is asking for an execution ID, which is equivalent to our workflow instance ID. That's something that I will change. For simplicity, the payload, the data that I will be sending is just the same as for the start scenario. And now I wanted to show you what other kind of configurations you would need to do. As you might remember, we also copied the URL in order to call the intermediate message event. So I hope I copied this correctly. And then next to the body and the URL, you would also need to configure a header for the API key that I already entered here. And of course, you also need to provide the information you have received from the BTP cockpit around authentication, for example, here with client ID and client secret. So now let's move back and try to send this request to our process that's currently waiting at the intermediate message event. I hope I have configured everything correctly. It says no. So let's quickly do some error tracing. Let me check the instance ID, copy this again here. Otherwise, I would skip this part of the demo. Let's save again and go back into the control tower, checking if I have actually copied the right trigger. So there you go. And now let me try again. Okay, unprocessable entity. Seems as if I might be doing something wrong now in the live demo, but in the interest of time, let me move back and describe what should have happened if I have done everything right. So basically, you would see that then the intermediate message event was updated, and you would have then the payload received also available here, and we would be able to continue processing the extension process with the newly derived information. So to complete this part, what additional benefits do we get with intermediate message events? As already mentioned, with the intermediate message event, you can increase your automation rate because there's less need for humans to basically check the information that's being exchanged or actually manually enter it. You don't need multiple processes, or you also don't need to inefficiently poll your system using actions. And with this, you can actually gain much more efficiency by also moving into a more event-driven kind of architecture. And with this, Ashmi, I'll be handing it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for this, Robin. And I see some positive reactions from the chat, so or from the audience, so that's great. Okay, so let me then jump back into our demonstration, and now I think we can move on to our next topic, which is all about boosting developer productivity with SAP Build. So moving into visual app development. So here, some of the main challenges in visual app development with your projects might come when you have complex logic and UI, and these become more and more difficult to adapt quickly. So we have a few new enhancements to SAP Build Apps that we hope are going to simplify and accelerate this visual app development. So I'll go ahead and hit play here. So one of the new enhancements is a context menu that you can access by right-clicking on a component in the UI canvas or on the layout tree. So here, this menu allows you to perform some quick actions like cut and copy, also duplicating the component, showing the logic. And now also in this global toolbar, we have this undo and redo buttons, and these enable you to reverse your actions up to 100 previous changes in the app. So a few small but significant enhancements here, but we hope that this will allow you to iterate faster, be able to adapt to changing needs, and just have an overall much more intuitive visual development experience. And now on the pro code side of things. So we are happy to introduce that high productivity tools now support SAP CAP Java projects, so the Cloud Application Programming Model. And some of the challenges around this include a very complex app development life cycles and also high efforts that are required to continue extending and adapting those according to changes. So now it is possible to create a new full stack project in the Java development stack, either from the SAP Build lobby or from the project overview. So you can jumpstart development with tools like Storyboard to see an overview of the app and develop with graphical editors. Also, you can streamline integration by adding OData services as external resources to your CAP Java projects via the Service Center. And you can also run and test your application with the local database or SAP HANA and live data or mock data. So now with these CAP Java projects, we're continuing to improve the developer efficiency around this and providing an overall much more consistent experience across SAP Build Code. And if we move over to SAP Mobile Services, so now there is a refreshed app overview for admins that we'd like to share with you. So some of the challenges here, and these were actually identified in a UX study that SAP Mobile Services conducted. And some of the pain points that came up were that there's many features available and users did not always know where to get started, and that the previous UI looked outdated. So based on this study, we're happy to roll out this overhauled experience of the app overview dashboard. So you'll see that every mobile app has a corresponding cloud configuration, which are used by the administrators. So letting them to have more control over the app overview dashboard. So now admins can easily find different features. They can speed up their troubleshooting and reduce the time spent in other less important tasks. So these were the releases, some of the highlights around boosting developer productivity. And now I think we can move into probably some of the most exciting news for the day, and that is around Joule for developers. So Joule for developers, as you probably all know, this is our unified offering for AI capabilities across SAP Build solutions. And the first update that we wanted to share is that it's now possible to build UI pages from data entities with Gen AI in SAP Build Apps. So, of course, creating new UI, as we know, based on data entities also requires a lot of time and effort to configure. So now it's possible to automatically generate UI pages with just the click of a button. So I'll show you how that looks now. So with your existing OData backend, you can enable these data entities, and based on that, you can just click on the Generate Pages button, and this will generate the relevant pages. So here, the AI is proposing UI pages based on the data structure. And this also includes the UI components and logic automatically. So a pretty exciting development. You can drastically reduce the development time needed to build out functional app pages. And also you can enhance the content easily by modifying those pages, their separate components, and also adding new fields based on your needs. And so with that, we can continue in the theme of Joule and AI for developers. And now I'm happy to hand it over to David, who's going to showcase some more Joule features for us.
Yes, thank you, Ashmi. Let me quickly share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you see the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So hello, everyone, and also a warm welcome from my side. So for Pro Code development with SAP Build Code, we added a new multi-agent support feature when developing applications with a Cloud Application Programming Model, or also called CAP. So since the launch of SAP Build Code, many AI capabilities have been made available, in Joule to speed up the development of SAP applications. And each of these Joule features is tailored to the creation of a specific artifact or use case. So for example, in applications that are developed with CAP, a Joule capability exists that supports the creation of CDS data models and services. Then we have another Joule feature that is able to create or generate sample data, and another one that is used to update and create application logic for the CAP application. However, this fragmented approach can slow down the project lifecycle and increase the risk of inconsistencies. So therefore, we additionally introduced the multi-agent capability to streamline the whole CAP backend development use case with one initial Joule prompt. And Joule will now understand and propose a plan to guide you through the creation of a full stack CAP project, and therefore enables a more comprehensive project foundation. On top of that, we also now support the creation of Fiori Elements applications based on existing projects. So once the CAP application has been generated, in order to have a full stack application, we of course need a UI application. And although this can be done with the Business Application Studio and templates manually, to support a full stack app creation using Joule only, we can now create a Fiori Elements or mobile application from within Joule itself by using the add UI command. And this accelerates the application development even more. So now let's see these new features live and in action. So in the demo, I will show to you, we are going to create a customer loyalty application. So the scenario is the following. Customers can make purchases on specific products. And based on their purchase value, they also can get bonus points or reward points. And we will create such an application where we can create purchases, products, customers, and also some custom application logic to that. And with that, I'm jumping over to the live demo. So here we are in the SAP Build lobby, which is the central entry point for all SAP Build projects. In our case, we want to create a full stack application where we would need to create the SAP application and with SAP Build Code and select a full stack application type, which will allow us to pre-configure the project for a CAP generation. And with that, we can enter a project name, which would be customer loyalty application. And then we would need to select the development stack, which can be Node.js and Java. But for the AI features, we choose now the Node.js development stack, and then we have to select the dev space. I just created the project, so we don't have to wait till it's initialized, and we can jump directly into that. So when we click on this project here, we will be forwarded to the Business Application Studio. There we can see we have the project structure already created for a CAP application. However, the data models, the services, UI application, and so on are empty as of now, as you can see. And this is going to be, this we will change now with the Joule. And here you can see in SAP Build Code, we have the Joule pane on the left side available, which also suggests us already specific commands we can use for CAP development. And in this case, we will choose the CAP gen app / command, where we can create the full stack application with one initial prompt. For that case, I already came up with a prompt, which is a pretty simple prompt to create a customer loyalty application with some sample data and application logic. And now we will trigger this one and see what Joule will provide us. Yeah, okay, that was quite fast. So we can see that we have requested a complex task. So this is a multi-step approach. Basically, we have the multiple steps involved here, which is the generation of the CAP data model and the data service. the sample data generation, as well as some application logic generation. And Joule also proposed some entities that we didn't define beforehand here, as you can see in the CAP data model. So we could start with that. But we came up with some requirements in this case and want to have like specific entities and properties. So I will provide this prompt here that we came up with. So basically we want to have 4 entities: customers, products, purchases, and redemptions. And for each of these entities, we want to have specific fields. Like for the customer, we want to have a 7-digit customer number, which may reflect a real customer ID. And also we want to mention here that we want to link the entities together. So each purchase is linked to a product, and each customer can have one or many purchases. And once we have defined this prompt here, we can save that and start the execution of the first step. This takes some seconds, but you can see Joule is already generating it. And now it's done generating, and you can see the schema CDS has been generated by Joule with all the properties that were defined in the entities. We can see some service CDS creation where the entities are exposed, and also some annotations that came out of the box, which are quite handy for the Fiori Elements application. And then we would move over to the second step to have some meaningful sample data. And for that, I also prepared another prompt to be more detailed. And in this case, for example, I want to have a specific customer number included. I also want to, for example, have the total purchase value to be defined as lower than 10,000. And with that, once saved, I can also run this second step and wait for Joule's response. All right, so we got some sample data generated for all the entities we defined here. This is an example of the customers entity where we can see we have some names here. We have the customer number that we wanted to have in one of these entries. And this looks quite promising. So let's go on to the last step, which would be the creation of some custom application logic. And here I also have a prompt for specific application logic that we want to implement. So basically, we want, if we create a purchase, we want to have like 1/10 of the purchase value added as a bonus points or reward points in this case. So when a purchase is created, this is being done automatically. And furthermore, we also want to deduct the redemption amount from the customer's total reward points and add that to their total redeem points. So once the customer wants to use their bonus points. And this is the last step. So Joule will finish this generation, and then we can accept this CAP project. Yes, so this takes some seconds, but there are multiple files that are created here, so we have to wait. Oh, that looks good. So here you can see we have some initial service JavaScript file created for us. And for each of the requirements that I added here in the application logic, Joule created specific handler files, event handler files that are used for this custom application logic. And this looks good so far. So we even have some comments created here. This looks really good. And with that, I will accept this one and take a look at the storyboard where we can see we have the data models now already available. We also have the services and custom application logic available. So this is a very good start. And now I just need to quickly refresh the page. And now the last step for a full stack application would be to have some nice UI on top, for each of the entities maybe. And this we can now also do with Joule. So once Joule is available, I can trigger the specific add UI command here and let Joule generate us the Fiori Elements application for us. All right. So here's the comment already proposed by Joule. We can use that one, and I also have a prompt for that. So I want to create a new Fiori Elements application with list report, object page, floor plan, and I want to use this generation to display the customers and where I also can edit the customers. I can also do that with all of the other entities as well. And with that, Joule is generating the Fiori Elements application, which will be reflected soon in the storyboard. All right. So you can see there has been an UI application being added to the storyboard. And we also get the page map where we could edit the Fiori Elements application with a nice visual editor. But for now, let's jump to the exciting part, and this is the preview of the application to see what we just created without coding. All right, so everything has started. We can jump into our newly created Fiori Elements applications for the customers. When we hit start, we will see our customers, the data that has been created for us. We can see we have a total purchase value and also the total reward points, which are 1/10 of the total purchase value. And now we could also start creating new customers. We could edit them, and we could also do that with other entities. And with that, I will conclude my demo. I hope I could show you the latest advancements in AI features for SAP Build Code, and I will hand over to Ashmi again. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, David. Great demo here, and a lot of excitement also from the audience, and also some questions coming in, so we'll try to answer those too. So now, last but not least, we'll hand it back over to Robin, who's also going to show some more exciting Joule capabilities. So please take over when you're ready, Robin.
All right, thanks. Same question as before. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good. So yeah, continuing in the spirit of David, also in SAP Build Process Automation, we now release the Gen AI capabilities. And probably if you're a build enthusiast, you have seen a demo or two on an end-to-end process automation generation, including multiple capabilities. But the question, of course, is, why would you be using this? And what I would like to focus on the demo in a second is that it can greatly help you to accelerate your automation journey, because oftentimes modeling a process and including and developing all the different artifacts and steps is time consuming, especially because you still, even if it's a local product, require some tooling expertise. You need to know your way around. And also, in order to extend business processes, you need domain expertise. But that's, of course, an area where Gen AI can support you very well. And then another problem, in case we will be having some time in the end, is that oftentimes developers work together in fusion teams. So you're working together with a colleague, or you might be working on your own, but you only are able to come back to your project and your development after a certain time gap. And then, of course, you would like to get a refresher on what you have been doing. And that's also another great capability, that you can get your automation scenarios explained. So also here, let's move on to the demo. But I just figured out during my break, so to say, what went wrong. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to fix what I have not been able to show earlier. So the issue that I've been doing in the demo for intermediate message events was that as you can see, there were quite a few processes already, and I think I started the wrong one here, the purchase order revision. While indeed we're in the evening session, I even gave myself a hint, yet did the mistake. So let's try again. We'll start an instance for this process. And once the instance has been created, let's navigate into the monitoring and check for the available instances here. So now you've seen the one that I looked at earlier, figuring out what I've been doing wrong. So that's basically already showing you how the intermediate message event has been called and updated, and the whole process has completed. And here you also see how the payload was being received through the intermediate message event. But just to recap again, what we did is for a created workflow instance, and I have seen the questions also in the chat, is how would a business solution know which instance to call? So right now you would have the instance ID that you get returned once you're creating a workflow instance for through an API trigger, for example. So you would need to hold this instance ID for later processing as one possibility to get it, and then use the same to make the update to the intermediate message event, which we will also be doing now. So let's hope I did everything correctly. We send, fingers crossed, and we see we get a 200 positive response. So if we update, we would also see that now also this workflow instance has completed. So anticipating the question, there will also be other means in order to identify the right workflow instance at a later point in time through correlation conditions. Oftentimes you would be using, for example, the ID of the business object itself. However, that's an enhancement that will come later into the future. And with this, let's jump to the GenAI part, because that's what we wanted to do at the very end. As a first hint, in order to make use of the capabilities for both Build Process Automation and Build Apps, you have this tile in the control tower to activate the GenAI capabilities. And once you've been doing this after some time, you would see that within the studio, you would also get those generate buttons. And the first use case we would like to take a look at is, you have seen earlier how I was generating a data type manually. And for this, of course, I firstly need to understand which attributes, for example, a purchase order has. However, that's something where GenAI or Joule can also help. So here my example prompt is, please create a data type for returning a delivered item of the purchase order in S/4HANA. The data type should additionally include a field for return reason and a field for the return type next to the standard purchase order attributes. So let's send this over to Joule and see what's being returned. After a moment, so Joule is working a bit slower in Build Process Automation than it did in Build Code today. Let's see. Okay. Okay, we see the request took too long. I would give it one more try using, let's say, the very same prompt and hope that this time it's going through. If not, we'll continue within the process itself. Okay, now we see it worked. And you also see that similar to the data type I was creating earlier, it also has the purchase order ID, it has the line item ID, but it also added properties like the quantity, delivery date, and the return reason and the return type I was asking for explicitly. So now we could, of course, use this new data type and assign it to the start interface and the intermediate message event. But in the interest of time, let me proceed with the very next step. So coming back to our example, of course, it could be the case that the information you have been creating your extension process with now has changed because there was an update to the business object. So maybe the return reason was adjusted again, or the return type. And this is something we might want to check for. And this can be, for example, done through a script task. So I would be now opening the script. And while, of course, you can use the generate button here, I prefer for now to use this a little bit bigger window. So what I would like to do is basically compare the attributes that we are receiving at start and in the intermediate message event. So the prompt might look like something like this. Generate a script. actually, please check whether the values of the equally named attributes of the outputs are identical. And now I would be saying, well, line item and order ID should be the same. So let's stick with the return reason and the return type for now and compare to the respective attributes and the payload received through the intermediate message event. And then we complete the prompt by saying, if so, please create a local variable and set it to true, otherwise to false. And I think that's a good example how you see also me as someone who actually doesn't know how to write JavaScript can give it a shot and use natural language to describe a scenario that then is being automatically generated by Joule. So we assume that this is being correct for now. So I accept and can apply the script. So what I actually forgot now is, in order to check this in the condition, the output of the script, what I still want to do is create a custom variable where I say, well, are the payloads identical? We define this to be a Boolean value, and then we apply. And then we can go back into our script editor. And then, of course, I could use the generate function, but I think for now it's just much easier to say, well, I have a custom variable here that's called identical, and I would like to assign this result to it. And with this, I hit apply again. And now I would be adding a condition where I want to check this particular attribute. So we open the condition editor, I check for my custom variable, and then we get also a dropdown. If it's identical to true, meaning they are identical, then probably nothing needs to be done. However, if there's something wrong, we probably would like to have a human review again what's been happening here. But in order to determine the right approver, that's where we can make use of our decision functionality. So for now, I would also create a decision here, call this agent determination. And then after the decision has been created, to keep it simple, I would create a few inputs, actually only two, I believe. One for the return reason, so the motivation to return the item, which would be a string, and another one for the type, which is the return category, basically, which would also be a string. And then the output we would like to get from the decision is who is the approver, so person to approve, which ultimately would also be a string. And once we've done this, we can then go on to generate and go generate a rule. And an example prompt here could be, please create a decision table rule with the name approver determination to determine an approver based on reason and type, such that if reason is equal to wrong item, the approver is always myself. If reason has a different value than wrong item and the type is supplier pickup, the approver is test@sap.com. If reason has a different value than wrong item and the type is customer and send back, the approver is test. So you see, now it also already gets a bit complex describing this in natural language. So let's see how I've been doing and how Joule manages to translate this into a structured decision table based on my description. And also, I'm not 100% sure if I've captured all the logical possibilities of the attributes that we've been looking at. But you see, it was able to generate a decision table here. But if I go back to the generator, I already saw, well, the rule condition is defined on the type supplier pickup, etc. And there's a gap identified. So, well, I would say let's make use of this fix gap button and see how Joule helps us to fulfill a logical gap in this decision table in order to get our scenario completed. So now it's generating an enhancement to this decision table. And we see what has been done. It actually entered a new line here. And now this would be logically complete, let's say. So now we could proceed, but looking at the time, maybe the last thing I would like to show is, as mentioned earlier, we're not only able to generate artifacts, but we can also get an explanation on them. So in this example, I would say, well, please explain this decision to me. For example, I haven't been working on this artifact for some time, so now it comes in handy that I can also get a quick natural language description of what we have been doing here. All right, coming back to the presentation, to sum it up, I hope you saw that with the help of Joule, you're really able to accelerate the time from the idea of your project to execution using nothing but your natural language. Sometimes, of course, it can still be faster to just use our low-code editors, but in the end, Joule is certainly a very valuable assistant for your process automation scenarios. And then again, if you're working collaboratively or with some time gaps, you can also use it to create a shared understanding of what you have been working on. And with this, I'll be handing it over back to you, Ashmi.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Robin. Love to see the live debugging of the demos happening in real time. It's always exciting. And there was a constant tornado of hearts happening. So positive reactions. Great. So thank you so much, Robin and David, for these excellent demos.